So yeah, let me go over what we're doing at High Fidelity. I think there's a lot of opportunity for conversation and interaction. So we're working on an open source Apache licensed client and server software that basically enables you to set up a server and bring people into a space together. We've been focusing technically on face-to-face interaction and synchronized physics and building scripting so that you can, build things and be together in a space. And so I want to talk about that. I'll give you some assertions about what I think is happening in the space from our perspective, and then what the unique technology is that I think needs to be built, and then what some of the opportunities or standards are. So fundamental assertion, this is more fun than anything else, and I think I'm probably preaching to the choir in here, but the argument I make around the technology is that this is definitely a sort of 10-year disruptor in the way that the original internet was, and also smartphones. I think there's a lot of comparisons there, which simply means that the entertainment applications and things we're talking about today probably aren't relevant in a few years, simply because it's a disruptive trend, not because they're not cool things. It's just so big. So I think it's going to grow to billions of users. Really, the two reasons that I think it is so disruptive, and they're two and they're distinct. One is the ability to use your hands and your head, 18 degrees of freedom, obviously, to manipulate the world as compared to 2 with a mouse. So that's a profound order of magnitude increase in creative capacity. So we're going to do 3D modeling, for example, somehow with this gear in a way that is an order of magnitude different. The second one, though, is a little more nuanced, which is face-to-face communication. If you haven't tried, becoming an avatar, and of course there are relatively few solutions right now to allow you to explore that. There are a couple, but the idea is that allowing the hands to move naturally and the head, eventually eye contact, certainly head motion today, that allows you to project people into a space as avatars. And unless you need to touch people or smell them, that means that interaction at a distance is potentially, for the first time, satisfactory and lifelike enough to replace a lot of things like business travel and entertainment. That's crazy. So the two things of those together, degrees of input freedom and communication, are disruptive. As I said, I think the sort of internet-like use, the general sort of uses of a virtual space where we just get into it together and do stuff like sell each other things or have meetings or date or build stuff, those are actually bigger than entertainment as application targets, so they're more relevant. I think that we're more likely to see some sort of a client-server situation than vertical apps. That's interesting and debatable, but I don't think there's going to be like a vertical app that controls it all, because it's going to be more like the internet because of this need to interconnect. And I also think they're not likely to be billions of users, that's true, but there are likely to be millions of servers of some kind. So again, a lot like the internet. There's a lot of new technology that's required that, at least by my eye, and this is the group to talk to about it, is above and beyond what we've already done with the web that we need. One is low latency. Everything's got to be about 100 milliseconds end to end when you have people interacting or manipulating objects together. So you probably need to get down in the IP stack to UDP. You need to somehow have really, really fast, low-routed networks and servers in the middle. 3D audio in particular has to be mixed at the server. I'll just say that. John Carmack said it on stage for the first time at OC3 a couple of weeks ago. 3D audio, you almost certainly, for a lot of people together in a room, are going to have to mix it on the server. Ditto for avatar movement, joint movements, things like that. They're going to need to be run through some sort of an intermediate server. We need a compressed scene description that includes LOD. In other words, if a JSON file that tells me everything that's in the virtual world is not adequate, because I'm going to drop you into some corner of New York and you're only going to be able to see a little bit of stuff. So we need to do something about putting you accessing 10 megabytes of data out of a terabyte of data. And then also distributed servers. Fundamentally, if you want to put 100 people in a room together in VR, you're going to need more than one MacBook, and you're also going to need more than one EC2 instance. So there fundamentally has to be stuff done around that. Finally, and I'm going as fast as I can. Finally, in terms of areas for standards, I think what falls out of some of that technology is first identity. This is a fundamentally read-write mechanism, VR. We need to be there as avatars and people, and that means that unlike the web, which was largely a read-only situation at the outset, we need to be there as avatars. So there's got to be some sort of identity under any client-server model that allows us to carry around who we are, what we look like, prove that we work at IBM or whatever. Content portability, some work's been done on this, but if you include interactive elements like scripting, how do I bring a whiteboard marker that works, or a gun, and bring it to your house, which is your server, and put it on the table and have that like work, hand it to you and have it work? There needs to be some standards around that. Authenticity for digital assets. We've got to know, I believe, I mean, this is debatable, but not DRM, but we probably want to use something like certificates, like what we do with SSL, to certify that things I like own or mine, or that they should be run, and that you can trust the scripts on them, stuff like that. And then finally, server discovery. If you assume that we're going to have a ton of devices, and I believe we're going to have millions and then billions of devices acting as servers, they're typically under dynamic networks these days. And so DNS, as we know it today, probably doesn't work. If I name a space in VR, I want to be able to type that name in somewhere and look it up. And so I think there's a need for that. That's it. We have got tons. We have got time. Chris is back here with me, and we've got demos and stuff for later, so you can actually look at this. I'm not even going to show you any pictures now, but come and find me. Thank you.